What's up, y'all? I'm Adam, and today I'm going to walk you through a really cool trick that you can do with Midjourney and Blender and a couple of small tweaks to make 3D worlds photorealistic up to 16K with depth come to life. Watch and you can learn how to do this. So today in this tutorial we're going to cover my workflow for how to create photorealistic 16K skyboxes out of just straight Midjourney text-to-image prompts. Of course, probably most of you have seen and or heard of Blockade Labs Skybox tool, where you can just use a neural net to generate skyboxes. So it's a pretty similar technique. The issue that I had personally is that the results coming out of there are pretty cartoonish, and there's really no clear answers to their usage policy on their website. So I went with Midjourney, which is my preferred neural net for image generation, and used a trusty old Stable Diffusion 1111 to make this awesome 16K photorealistic skybox in Blender that I am now going to use to build out a scene. So I'm going to show you how I did this. First, I used just straight text-to-image prompting in Midjourney. The original idea came about because I was curious to see if Midjourney was even capable of rendering 360 images or equirectangular images, which are those that can be used for skyboxes. So I'm less concerned, to be honest, with the seamlessness of the skybox and more concerned with the clarity in this case, because I need it more for the backdrop in a scene than to be the actual main scene itself. So in this case, what I'm looking for is the ability to generate something photorealistic that can take place anywhere and is not cartoonish or constrained by a model that's only trained on less realistic images. So, for example, I tried a few different ways of prompting Midjourney to produce spherical or 360 images, and found it's not too difficult to do so. I was able to get really good results out of Midjourney by just giving, as you can see here, pretty direct, simple prompts, as opposed to a more complex weighted prompt, which I did try later and works great as well. It's just the ability of Midjourney to generate these types of images straight from text is pretty cool, especially once you see how they're incorporated in Blender and can create 360s. So here you see I've expanded the image to its full resolution that you can get off of Midjourney, which is 1024 by 1024. I save this image, name it whatever you want. We're gonna open up our good old trusty Stable Diffusion 1111. So here you'll see I copied and pasted my local web address to access the terminal, and here's our good old 1111. Gonna want to go to the extensions page and make sure that you have these extensions that I'm clicking here. One of them is upscaling images, which does so with a high quality AI, and the other is for algorithm for creating high resolution depth maps, which we're going to use to create depth in our image. Once you have those selected, you can apply and restart our UI here, and then Stable Diffusion will reload, and you're going to go to extras. You're going to open up our original image. That is the largest resolution from Midjourney's website. You're gonna go to Upscaler 1 and set it to R-Ezergan 4X Plus, which is the awesome plugin that we downloaded, and that will use an AI to upscale your image 4 times. The trick here is once you are done, you are going to feed that same image back into the program, and you are going to do it again. And so what you will be left with after your first round is a 4096 by 4096 image, and after the second round of upscaling, what you will have is a nice 16,384 by 16,384 pixel image, a beautiful 16K image. So now with that, we are going to open up the image to image tab in Stable Diffusion, because now we're going to create our depth map. So we're going to upload our backdrop here, our up-res version, and what we're going to do is we're going to set the sampling method to DDIM we're going to go to the very bottom. We're going to choose a different script. The script we're going to use is depth aware image to image mask, which is one of the extensions that we added that helps to capture a high resolution depth map, which matches the input size of what you feed it. We're going to change the model that it's going to use to process the depth to the Midas model, and we're going to generate that image. Now we wait, and when we're done with all of that, what we are left with are upscaled versions of the original image, both in 4K and 16K, and depth maps for whichever you choose to make. If you only need the 4K depth map, then by all means just make that. It may not even be possible in your system to generate the 16K depth map. In any case, you can still upscale the 4K depth map and use it in this context. So now what we're going to do is we are going to open up Blender, and we are going to start a general project in Blender. We're going to delete this cube that comes stock in the project, and we are going to add a mesh UV sphere. We are going to scale this sphere up because this is going to be our planet. Now, after that is to our liking, we can adjust the view so that we can see our sphere. Now we are going to open up our material properties tab, and we're going to add a new material, and this material is going to be the exterior of our UV sphere. So we're going to open up the shading viewport, and we are going to see here our principled BSDF and our material output. And what we are going to do is we are going to add a new image texture right here. And this image texture is just going to be our 16K backdrop wrapped around the outside of this UV sphere. So we're going to find our 16K image. We're going to open it, load it. It might take a second. We're going to connect our color node from the backdrop to the base color of the principled BSDF. Now after a moment you should see it switch to rendered view, and there you go, we have a 16K backdrop. So we could go back to layout mode, switch to camera view, turn on the render again, and there you have it. We are inside of a UV sphere with a 16K AI generated photorealistic alien backdrop, and pretty neat. There's a lot we can do with it here. We can add our depth map here. We can scale this world up. We can do quite a lot. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to shade smooth the UV sphere itself so that you don't see those squares in the outside, and so you can get a much better look at the actual backdrop. Now I'm going to show you it in perspective and make it larger so that we have a much more distant perspective to build our scene in. Now you can see here, this is our 16K result. Here we are flying around, just checking out the landscape, seeing the space, pretty cool. So now we're gonna go back into the shading view, and we are going to add in our depth map. So we're gonna add a new image texture first, which is going to be for the depth map, and then we are going to add a vector displacement, which is going to feed our depth map into the material output. So we are going to add our depth map to that node. Now we are going to add a vector displacement node, and we are going to connect the image texture node with the depth map to the vector icon in the vector displacement node, and we are going to pull the displacement node down to connect it with material output, and there you go. Now you can see the depth map is projected over the backdrop, and it's not perfect, but you could see how it is showing you where the texture is going to be. So now if you want to have it smoothed out so you can see it seamless, just set the scale to 0 for the vector displacement, go back to layout, and there you go. You have your depth map applied to the backdrop and a beautiful end result. And there you have it, folks, a 16K skybox, photorealistic, whatever you want, alien planet, something real, something you can conjure up in your mind. If you can think it up, you can make a wonderful 16K skybox. From there, you can build out anything you want, any scene you want, any set, and your models, your characters, your VFX plates, your Nerf generated content, and you can create virtual productions on the fly for a fraction of the cost of what it used to be, because now it just costs some ingenuity, creativity, and you can pretty much do whatever is in your imagination. So thank you for joining me today,
for this tutorial, and I hope that you are able to make some cool stuff with this. And if you do, please feel free to share, and hope you have a great day.